This is James Lupton for Slothbox, sponsored by Excelsior Sporting Club, episode 2, the pod. Joined by, as always, Lynden Dixon. Lynden, how are you, mate?
Not too bad. Like I was just talking about melting in this heat a little bit. But yeah, it's not too bad. Like I feel like I was treated to a nice weekend of boxing. Even in the preview that we did last week, I didn't quite appreciate how much we actually had on this weekend. But yeah, it's been nice, mate. How you been?
All good, mate. Like I say, melting, but we complain when we complain when it's cold. We complain when it's hot.
Mm,
Typical British and British weather.
exactly, mate.
But yeah, no, like I say, good weekend of boxing. I managed to catch up on all of it this morning after last night, and a lot of ground to cover today, which is
Oh,
great.
mate. Yeah.
Let's start off with Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor. Fair to say we're both wrong last week, and I think
Mm.
most of Britain was, to be honest with you. Outstanding performance from Teofimo Lopez. Really, really stepped up his game. Firstly, for me, a lot of fighters always say they get out for the big fights. They perform better on the big nights. I've never understood that, and
Mm.
that's potentially the case for Teofimo. Obviously we saw the Lomachenko fight, and then we saw the loss against Cambosis and Sandor Martin last time. That was a bit controversial. And is it because he wasn't getting up for those fights? Was he getting complacent? But obviously, Josh Taylor's a big name, undefeated fighter. It's a big scalp on his record, and like I say, it was an outstanding performance really from Teofimo. The perfect game plan.
Mm.
Um, that's two fights on the bounce now for Josh Taylor, where he's had an off night. He said himself. But like I say, two fights now back to back where he's had an off night, which isn't really good enough at that level. We said last week for the loser, where do they go now? We did say where's the winner go, and it sounds like Teofimo's retired, but we'll get on to that.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good point.
what did you make of the performance first of all in the fight itself?
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing you said we was wrong last week, but it's not like we made a fool of ourselves. Like you said, the whole nation sort of joins us in holding our hands up this today, saying, "Well, fuck, bloody hell, Tio's pulled it out of the bag there," and that's what I did. I think he nullified Taylor in every way, and then he just ran away with it. But talking about Taylor, it was tricky because if you think, oh well, when was the last time he didn't? When was the last time he fought that bad? It was last time. So it's sort of like I feel like there's even more pressure on him now because it is, well, you should have lost to Carroll. You did lose to Tio. Well, what else are you going to do, mate? Is it a case of, oh, I hate the saying, but going back to the drawing board and just starting again, coming away from that elite level, taking on someone just out of it, just to get the ring rust up? Because he didn't. When was the last time he fought? Before now, like a year and a bit.
Yeah, over a year now.
That is a long time for a fighter to stay away, stay away. Yeah, you're training and stuff, but then get thrown in Madison Square Garden against Tio. That's a big, big ask for anybody. So, yeah, I feel like it wasn't what I expected, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. And for boxing, I'm happy that Teofimo Lopez looked as good as he did. It wasn't like they was both awful, but Taylor was just even worse. Lopez looked great. He looked like how we all remember him. Do you know what I mean? Like against Lomachenko, it was a great performance. Well, what, mate? Enough of me rambling on. What did you think of it?
I'm just going to have to put your point there about the gel Teofimo. We know what he could have done before. I think people, especially boxing fans, have a short memory.
Mm,
We look at it and go, well, Sandor Martin, he didn't have a great night there. He got the win just about, as I say, the loss previously. And, we're thinking that Lomachenko performance was such a long time ago. And it was, you're talking, what, over 3 years ago almost 3 years, I should say. So it was a while ago, but in boxing terms, it's only a few fights ago. But like I say, it's short memories in boxing. So I mean, I'd like to see Teofimo carry on. He's still
me
young,
too.
he's fresh, he's just picked up these titles at a new weight division. Um, Talking of new weight divisions, you mentioned, back to the drawing board for Josh Taylor. In terms of his team, he has gone back to the drawing board because he's got a new team. So I think his first fight under Joe McNally,
Mm.
and the team that returned the gym. So he has done that in a sense already. I think it was just clearly a step too far for him. Did he make weight well? Could that be a problem? Is that an issue? There's talk of him moving up again to 147. There was talk about it before, and he stayed at 140, but it feels like now's the time to move to 147. Excuse me, but welterweight division is full of killers as well.
Mm.
You go up there and you're talking your Spencers, your Crawfords, and where'd you go from there? Does he go up there and, let's say, cash in and get a Conor Ben fight if Conor can get back
Yeah.
down to 147? You know,
Mm.
in Britain, that's a big fight and a big money fight. That's something that potentially could be something that's on the cards because, like I say, with technically two back-to-back off nights, where does he go from here? Like you say, he's going to have to step down the caliber of opposition. But then again, does he get up for those fights? We've seen him step down in levels of opponent previously during lockdown and things like that, and he wasn't convincing, he wasn't outstanding, but we
Mm.
have seen him against the likes of Prograis. So it's a difficult one for Josh Taylor because, if anything, it should have been Josh Taylor potentially retiring rather than Teofimo Lopez. And I'm not saying Josh should retire, far from it, but I don't think Teofimo should be. And it remains to be seen if he does actually
Mm.
retire, or if it's a Tyson Fury retirement.
Exactly, mate. It might be the first of many that we're about to see. But yeah, in terms of Lopez, no chance. I don't think he should retire. I think it's just the start. Like he said, he was exaggerating a touch in my opinion, but he's technically had two Hall of Fame careers. He's been lineal champ twice. He's done it in multiple weight divisions, and I think I tell you what, the man who comes out of it the best for me last night wasn't either Lopez or Taylor. It was Jack Carroll. I think that makes his performance against Taylor look even better because it's almost like, well, Taylor was supposed to be this guy. Well, Catterall definitely beat him. We all know he beat him. I think Catterall's got a right to be calling for that Teofimo Lopez fight next. Telling him, no, you're not going away into retirement until I've beat you, mate. I think for Catterall, and I think Eddie Hearn, he's going to be rubbing his hands together considering Taylor lost.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned Eddie Hearn there rubbing his hands together. He seems to have a star on his hands with Sonny Edwards now. Another great performance at the weekend.
Mm.
And as I mentioned last week, I felt Campos was going to come and push him, and I felt there would be openings for Sonny to be more aggressive than we've seen before and to try and get potentially a stoppage. And I think we saw that this weekend where Sonny was letting Campos come onto him a bit more than he normally would with opponents.
Mm.
And yeah, he gave away a couple of rounds by doing so. But Sonny said himself after in the press conference that he felt like he could let him do that. He didn't feel no power in Campos' shots. So he knew he could take that risk to potentially try and get that stoppage.
Mm.
Ultimately, it was the Sonny Edwards unanimous decision, which has got to be the safest bet in boxing right now for any of the bookmakers out there losing money on that. You're going to keep losing on that because that is the safe bet right now. But yeah, again, Sonny performed well. His matchroom debut, headlining a show back, in his home in London. I think he came through it really well. And what I like to see as well is, obviously, we know Sonny's a relaxed and composed guy. He loves his boxing, but he sat ringside watching the undercard fights before he's gone to get his
Yeah.
hands wrapped. I think it was a Nina Hughes, Katie Healy fight, and he sat there ringside watching, just chilling out, having a sing song between rounds with the
Mm.
music that's coming over the tannoy. And you don't see that a lot in boxing, especially the main event fighters. They normally turn up as late as they can, straight in their dressing room, locked away. But Sonny's got that confidence and ability, or in his ability, I should say, that he doesn't feel the need to shut himself away and close himself
Mm.
off. He can just be relaxed, be himself, and he knows that he will go out and perform and win.
Mm.
I'd say great performance, but I want to talk more on the potential Bam Rodriguez fight. They're talking December. Looks like it's heading out to America, which will be Sonny's debut in America, I believe. Massive, massive opportunity for Sonny Edwards to build his profile out there
Mm.
and obviously get the best win of his career on his record, in my opinion.
Well, you mentioned there about going over to America, and I think I was just thinking whilst you was saying making your points, I was thinking, well, I wonder what does happen next because I might try and slip away for another fight or two. What does he do next? But like you say, from a promoter's perspective, Sonny in America, that is the way for that is the next step in Sonny's script for me because he's got that personality, he's got that Nas-like confidence. It is unseen, and some people, it's Marmite in British boxing anyway. But I think me and you spoke about this about Ben Whitaker, and It's Marmite. You love it or you hate it, but it sells, and it doesn't matter what you think. It will sell. You will tune in to see him get beat, or you would tune in to see him win in style like he usually does. And I think that's the same thing with Sonny Edwards. But in terms of profile, I do think that is something that Matchroom will look at because he's got the talent. It's clear as day. He was coasting along last night. He let Campos in when he wanted him to. He let him in, but then as soon as he wanted to switch back on again, he was picking him off. He was exiting with the footwork. It was a proper, beautiful performance at times. But like you say, that profile is something that Eddie Hearn and Matchroom will look at, and I can see him now on the chat shows, the radio shows, the Americans loving him because he's a funny, cheeky guy. And yeah, I can see him upsetting Bam's camp when he finally beats him.
Absolutely. And mention his personality, and do you know what? He will be a revelation out there with the American boxing media. They will lap him up. They will love it. They will absolutely love it over there. And he's made for the big stage. Like you say, he's cheeky. He's got personality. He's got character. And he knows that he needs to have that because in the lighter divisions, you're not going to make the big money or get the big fights or even the big stage and platform without having that extra outside of the ring. So he knows that he's not got that knockout power, 20 fights, 20 wins, 4 stoppages. He knows he's just going to coast around for 12 rounds, and that's his style. We know that. We know what to expect of Sonny Edwards now. So he needs that something else because you mentioned that Naz-like character, that Naz-like people will tune in to watch him win or lose. He doesn't have the Naz-like power to stop people.
Exactly, yeah.
And if he had that, he'd probably be looked back on in 10, 20 years' time as potentially better than Naz.
Yeah.
No, he probably is a better boxer than Naz was, but Naz had that power, Naz had that charisma. And I think Sonny's going to show some of that charisma himself because it's in there and he knows how to market himself.
I think we saw the promotional game plan as soon as Campos got into the country. I mean, they had that face off outside of Wembley and Sonny with his belt, knocking his hat off, swearing, saying what he likes to him. That's the game plan going forward. You'll see that a lot with Sonny. I don't think that he's truly like that, but that man knows how to drum up a crowd. It's almost like a salesman at a market, and that's what he's doing. He knows the eyes are on him, the cameras are on him, and that's the whole point. He wants you to text your mate, ring your mate when you go to the pub. Oh, have you seen this? Have you seen Sonny Edward? I think he's a knob, or I think that's quality. I think he should have stuck it on him, or I think he should have just left it. That conversation that you have with your mates, that is what all of that was for. And I think it's like Tyson Fury. I remember when he made that comeback and he was picking up Seferi or whatever it was, and everyone was talking about it. It was stupid, but it was funny. He didn't have to do it, but that conversation was why he did it. And then Wilder, he stepped it up that level. And as soon as Sonny steps it up that level in terms of level of competition, he'll step up the promotion game too. And I'm looking forward to it.
No, absolutely. I think the build up to that fight of Bam Rodriguez will be fantastic. The build up to the Martinez fight with a bad blood there, that's going to be unbelievable. And, he's talking about if he can't get that fight next, he's going to move up a weight. You're talking about your Chocolatitos, your Estradas, your Quadras, and these guys in the weight above are already legends of the sport. These guys are already future Hall of Famers. So, he steps up, whether it's now or in a couple of fights' time, and he goes on to beat them, which I think he's going to catch him at the right time, to be honest with you. Especially Chocolatito. I love my big Rowan Gonzalez fan, but Father Time doesn't wait for nobody, and Sonny could catch him at the right time. And I think Sonny cements himself for a future Hall of Fame career if he can go through these guys. I mentioned that again. It's a murderer's row. These are killers at these weights, and Sonny's calling them out, and no one else is.
Mate, it's incredible. It's like I'll be completely honest with you right now. I completely forgot about the people in the division above because I'm so set on Bam Rodriguez. It's a great fight. I can't wait for that. Like, for me, that's like Spence Crawford because the styles make the fights, and I think we're definitely going to see it. We ain't got to wait 2 years for that one. But in terms of excitement and how much I'm looking forward to it, that's at the same level for me, being a boxing fan. But, oh my God, Sonny Edwards against Chocolatito, that's a fight. That is some fight because Chocolatito, what's the volume of punches, and can Sonny miss them all? I don't think so. So for me, that is the fight to make, and I hope they make it before Chocolatito completely, slips down the road a little bit. Because, like you said, mate, that Father Time waits for no man, but that is a cracking fight if we can make it soon.
No, absolutely. But like it's got to be made in the next 12 months,
Yeah.
really. Um, Another massive fight. We didn't mention this last week's episode, but Mongolia versus Derevenchenko.
Mm.
And what a fight it was. I don't know if you've caught up with it yet, Lyndon, but it was an unbelievable firefight from start to finish. Mongolia prevailed. He won the scorecards, but it was razor thin. And Derevenchenko, at 37 years old, he's done himself proud there, and he shows why he's this guy just below the world level, but you see he pushes the world level guys and the elite fighters as much as he can, and
Mm.
he's a real credit to the sport first of all, Derevenchenko. But like I said, the fight was just an unbelievable back and forth, just an absolute war. At times it could have been fought in a phone box, as they say, it's a bit cliche, but honestly, they weren't moving from middle of the ring, and it was just potential fight of the year candidate already.
Mm. Well, mate, like you said, I never quite caught up with that one, but I was looking at the reaction and stuff on Twitter, and it looks like Munguia's knockdown was the thing that won him that fight, just that extra point on those scorecards. But I feel like those fights we don't really see as much as we used to. Do you know what I mean? The competitive back and forth fights, and I feel like a fight like that, even though I haven't seen it and can't really comment on it, that's a fight we need for boxing. We need the more even fights where people aren't scared to get in the ring with this man or this woman because of so and so or their reputation or their power. No, just put your pride on the line and just fucking go for it. Excuse my language, but it really does get to me, and I feel like boxing is teetering on the knife edge of maybe going that way where people start to think, well, I ain't lost yet. I don't really want to get in there with him. Spence Crawford's the prime example of the way to be. And I feel like we're seeing too much of the other way with the bigger guys in the sport. I won't get into it, but yeah, that one last night, it looks like it was one for the ages.
I mean, Mongolia now moves to I think 42-0.
That's
It's,
mental, isn't it?
it's
42 and 0.
outrageous, And don't get me wrong, he's not fought great opposition yet, and that's potentially the worry because when he does have to step up in opposition, his record shows that he's more than ready and more than capable. However, is he? Is he
Yeah.
physically, mentally, and has he been prepared enough to be challenged by the likes of Canelo Alvarez, which is what they're saying they want to put him in with them, those guys over there at Canelo's team and the All Mexican Showdown, etc. It sells very well, but are you throwing your sheep to the wolves as such with Mongolia and Golden Boy because is he ready for? I mean, is anyone ready for Canelo Alvarez really at times? But Mongolia's built up this record, but it's, I would say, very padded.
You took the words out of my mouth with the throwing the sheep to the wolves analogy. For me, it's like I don't think he's no chance does he beat Canelo. That's just my honest, humble opinion. But if you do want to test yourself in that level, whether see how close you are, for me, it's we'll fight Benavides. He's the man. He's sort of like the second man in the division, calling for it. Fight him, beat him, and it's more justified. You probably the fans will probably give you a little bit more of a chance. But like you say, it's I think they know they probably won't beat Benavides, and like you say, that record is a bit beefy. It's been eating some of those Conor Ben eggs. But for me, it's I can't quite see it. But like you say, I think they'll throw him to the wolves just to get that nice last payday.
No, absolutely, I agree. Um, a bit of a strange one on Twitter during fight
Oh yeah.
day. Um, so Claressa Shields has phoned herself out to New York to go to Josh Taylor to Teofimo Lopez. The problem was she didn't have a ticket, so she expects to receive a complimentary ticket from Top Rank because she's a world champion and she's very good at what she does within boxing. Top Rank turn around and say, well, no, we've not got your ticket for you. So she takes to social media, brands Top Rank as sexist. If she was a male world champion, she would have a ticket. It all kicks off. She jumps straight back on a flight to Miami. Don't worry, Floyd's got me. Floyd's got me a ticket front row for the exhibition against Gotti free. I'm going there now instead. She's on a flight. While she's sat on her plane, Top Rank replied to her tweet. Oh, hi, Claressa. Yeah, no, we spoke to your team 2 days ago. So 2 days before fight night, her team contacted them. They said, oh, no, apologies. We sold out of all the floor seats, front row seats. We did offer alternative tickets to your team for you as a complimentary ticket, but your team declined them. So what's going on here? Why is Chris's team not spoken to Claressa about this and informed her to the point where she's flown out to New York to go to the fight and has just jumped on a flight back again because she couldn't get in. I mean, this is just ridiculous in terms of communication. And firstly, why would you expect to just be given a complimentary ticket because of who you are? Because I think what gives you that right, when people are paying a hard-earned money to go to these fights, then take it to social media to complain about it and call people sexist. That's a big shout.
That's a crazy thing to say.
When in reality, you've been offered a ticket, your team have declined it on your behalf. Somebody's getting sacked in the morning, as they say at football. What do you make of that whole debacle?
Mate, I've got 2 words for you. When I saw it, I thought of this straight away, and it's accidental partridge. One of everyone's favourite Twitter accounts on Twitter. It's basically just random people across the world making themselves look like a tit and a bit like Alan Partridge. And for me, that was such a Partridge moment. It was, oh yeah, well, I'm going to go and do this. And then they replied, and we did actually try and speak to the team, mate. But yeah, for me, it's just maybe, I don't know, it's a difficult one because I really like Claressa Shields, but that was not a good look. It made me feel a bit cringed out reading it in the morning. But yeah, I think either her team needs to pull the finger out, or maybe she needs to just put her phone down for a few days.
Absolutely, it's strange, but let's move swiftly on, and let's just hope that Claressa sticks to doing her talking in the ring rather than outside of it. I said I've got a lot of time for Claressa as well, but yeah, it wasn't a good look. Talking of good looks and talking of a great fight and great potential in a fighter, Adam Azim. He headlines this Friday night at York Hall, the 16th of June. Fighting Fanyan. I can't say I know too much about him, but Adam Azim, he looks the real deal at the minute. He looks to be moving quickly, and he could be looking at major titles come the end of the year. First of all, your thoughts on Adam Azim as a prospect?
One of the best in the country by a mile. I think there's a couple. And I think a lot of them are with boxer. So for me, that's Ben Whitaker and Adam Azim, Caroline Dubois. I think they're probably, those 3 are in the top 5 for me. But I'm seeing whispers on Twitter, nothing concrete, that apparently the Adam Azim fight might even be off because of a hand injury. It's a hand injury he had before, but they reckon it's at the point where they might just get surgery on it just to get it out of the way. But they reckon the card will still go ahead with Fraser Clark headlining or Caroline Dubois headlining. But in terms of Adam Azim's potential, he could be the next boxing superstar, not just British boxing superstar, not just, do you know what I mean, boxer superstar, the man we look up to, the Tyson Fury, the Anthony Joshua, the poster boy, the man who's on this morning, the man who sat on the sofas. It could be Adam Azim. But by the looks of it, there's a little bit of skepticism about whether the show's going to go, whether he's going to be on the show or not. But either way, he's going to have some career ahead of him, that boy.
Yeah, unbelievable. And yeah, I've not heard the rumours just yet. As at time of recording, nothing's confirmed. If it is injured and if he needs surgery, it's best to get it done and out of the way, I suppose. It would be a shame. But you've mentioned the couple of names I'm going to move on to. First of all, let's start off with Caroline Dubois, an unbelievable talent. But she's obviously, like I say, she's fighting this weekend. But rather than focus on a fight, I want to focus on what's been surrounding her name recently. And that's a couple of call-outs, not by her, but by her team and her promoter, and Ben Shalom. And first of all, let's start off saying I want the Michaela Mayer fight in the next 12 months, early next year. They're looking at that fight. I feel like they really have the belief in Caroline that she can beat Michaela Mayer, in the next 12 months. And that's a big step up and a big scalp on her record if she can fight Michaela and beat her. But also more recently, Katie Taylor. Now, whether or not it is because she's lost to Chantel Cameron, they've seen obviously some weakness in her now, that they've now said, we feel Caroline can beat Katie Taylor now too. I mean, first of all, massive opportunities, massive money for Caroline, massive step-ups for Caroline, first and foremost as well. She's not been in with the highest level of opponent.
Yeah.
But if we're being honest, there's not a lot of depth in the women's ranks at the minute, which is a shame. Caroline tweeted herself recently about a World Boxing Super Series of women's lightweights.
Cracking idea.
Let's throw them all in there.
Mm.
Katie Taylor, Chantal Cameron, let them two rematch it out. Let's have Michaela Mayer versus Caroline Dubois and throw another couple in there. Yeah, top of my head, I couldn't tell you who, but the other next two top prospects or ranked, whoever it may be, let's throw in. Let's have a little 6-woman, 8-woman little tournament, and let's see who is the best of the best out there. And let's try and get all the belts in there. And let's have an undisputed champion at the end of it. It's a shame to see the World Boxing Super Series fade away. I think Sauerlands, in my opinion, have sold their soul to misfits. They, I can understand it from a business point of view. World Boxing Super Series is for the boxing purists. It's not for your casual fans. It is for the hardcore of hardcore fans. And Misfits clearly isn't. They've got their own fan base and it's ever growing and it's clearly making an awful lot of money. So from a business perspective, I can understand why Sauerland have gone that direction, that route. But it is a shame for people like the Summers who are boxing men. They've been in boxing a long, long time to, like I say, they've sort of sold their soul, in my opinion, and they've sold out boxing for the circus.
Completely agree, mate. I feel like that's what boxing's missing right now in terms of the credibility that it has. The World Boxing Super Series would be something that just brings that right back. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, well, look, these guys are doing it right. Doesn't matter what else is going on. Look at these guys. But in terms of Caroline Dubois, this is the honest truth, God's honest truth right here. She's one of my favourite fighters to watch, male or female. I don't care. She makes me excited in the fight week. I'm checking to see what she's said. I'm checking to see what she's weighed in at. I'm looking at the public workout, and then I'm there whatever time she's on at the card, sat at home, just waiting to see how long it takes her to get someone out of there. I feel like she's almost the women's Mike Tyson at the minute in terms of she's putting on those shows and displays, and the boxing purists, if you know what you're looking at, you'll know that she's a special talent, and that's why I think she annihilates Maya. I really do. I feel like, yeah, she hasn't necessarily been in there with that level, but she was Olympic level for as long as she could remember. Do you know what I mean? It's ingrained. It is the script for her to be a world champion and break all these records and that. Taylor, I think right now is a step too far. That's true, and I feel like she would say that if you had her on a lie detector. But in terms of Michaela Mayer, I think bring it on.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned potential headliner if Adam Azim does pull out will be Fraser Clark and he's fighting Marius Wack. Now,
cracking fight for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, really good fight. Good step up. Good opponent for Fraser right now, but it's still a bit overshadowed by the Fabio Wardley talk. Then obviously he had a fight announced for this card, and I mean, obviously, as I mentioned, the news changes so fast. I couldn't even tell you who the opponent was, but he wasn't anybody good. He was somebody, a bit of fodder chucked in to get blown away. And I think Boxer has seen the backlash from that because they're talking about the Fabio Wardley fight, excuse me, and then all of a sudden he's fighting some journeyman who they've pulled out, and I think they've sort of overpaid for Fraser and not left much money in the pot for these opponents. But I think they've seen the backlash and they know. I mean, they're a smart team over at Boxer. I spent some time with them over in Poland for the Bacoli fight and the Alan Babic fight over there, and they do listen to what people say.
Yeah.
They was always open to hearing opinions from myself and the other media out there. So I always wanted to know the fans' perspective, which I think is very refreshing. And like I said, I think they saw the backlash on social media from Fraser's original opponent, and they've gone, right, okay, we need to do something about this. We can't put him in there against this guy. Now, whether or not Fraser's turned around and gone, listen, you're making me a laughing stock, and this is, and that's a worry for Fraser. It's got to be, because he's come in, this Olympian. He's thinking he's going to get moved fast. He's thinking he's going to be, getting a shot at British title, moving on. He wants world honours, and he's he is over 30. He's turned over late. He hasn't got a long time in the pro game.
Yeah.
He wants to be moved fast. He wants to be active, and he could be seen as a laughing stock by just fighting these guys who he's going to or meant to be rolling over. The problem is as well, he said himself he's not getting up for these fights. So if he doesn't roll them over, if he's not stopping these guys, then people are going to say, was Fraser Clark the real deal? Is he what we thought he was?
Yeah.
And I think they were sort of caught in a bit of a catch-22 by giving these opponents. So they've changed it up. They brought in Marius Wack, who is an experienced guy. He's been at the highest level. He's, world title challenger. And I think it's a real good test for Fraser, and it'll bring out the best in Fraser as well, because he will get up for this. He's got to get up for this.
I feel like if you look at the little quartet of heavyweights that we got going on in terms of Fraser Clark, Fabio Wardley, David Adelaide, and you could probably chuck Soldakers in there or Dave Allen. It's between them two. Mariusz Wach is the best that any of them have fought. That's a fact. I mean, I was just looking at his CV earlier, and you see he's only lost to people like Klitschko in 2012, Povetkin in 2015, and then he's lost a little bit later on to Piccoli, White. They're all top level operators. It doesn't matter. You can say what you want about where they were in their careers. They were top level operators, and they're the only people he's lost to. Hughie Fury as well. And if Clark beats him, not knocks him out, just beats him, just convincingly, just looks a level above him, I think he'll then deserve the bragging rights of, I'm the man out of these four boys, and it's on my terms. I know Fabio's got the belts, but he hadn't fought anyone like him. He's knocked people out, Fabio, but he sort of took an easier way, in my opinion, in terms of opponents. Like, he hasn't fought anyone like Mariusz Wach, and it's going to be interesting what happens, because I bet you, if he was honest now, Fraser will be dreading fight week. Just the same questions from the same people every day. Oh, but what about Wardley? Oh, but what about Adelaide? Nah, he's not looking forward to that. But I feel like will take his frustrations into the fight, and he's going to be in a great position if he does manage to beat him.
I mean, you mentioned about the same questions throughout the fight. I mean, that sums up most of the boxing media these days, but that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
You mentioned, I just put a question to you, Lyndon. You mentioned about Wardley's opponents, and obviously none of them sort of matching up to Mariusz Wach. What about Nathan Gorman?
Quality boxer, but in terms of where he was in his career, you look at his record. It weren't like he was in hot vein of form and Fabio knocked him off of his tower. No, I feel like he was at a crossroads at that point, Nathan Gorman. And where is he now? That's no disrespect to Nathan Gorman. He's a great fighter, and but that's the thing. He was at a difficult point in his career. Same as he fought Eric Molina, didn't he, on a Sky card?
Uh-huh.
What was he doing in his career? He wasn't no spring chicken. And those names look great on your CV, but at the same time, Fabio hasn't really been tested yet, and I don't think that's through a fault of Matchroom. Earlier on, you could say that when he was like 5-0, it's like, well, come on, step up a bit. But no, like even his last fight, Eddie you could tell through fight week in the interviews, he was a bit cautious about this guy he'd put him in there with, but Fabio just did him, and no one really saw it coming in that fashion. They probably saw a win, and that's why Fabio has got the bragging rights at the minute. But it's a real difficult thing, because none of these fighters will want to be held back and will want to have their careers padded. I'm not saying that they are at the minute, but it's going to be interesting to see where those four fighters that I've mentioned go in the next 18 months, because it will be a testament to their promoters rather than them, because they can only fight who's in front of them. And I feel like most of those are world level. Maybe Dakers and Allen are a little bit below. But it'll be interesting to see where they go.
Would you back Mariusz Wach to beat Nathan Gorman?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. No, the other way around. I think Nathan Gorman beats him. Yeah. That is...
So does that mean Nathan Gorman's a better win for Fabio Wardley?
Oh, James, you're trying to tie me up there. Is Nathan Gorman a better win for Fabio Wardley? No, I still don't think he is, because Nathan Gorman he's got that to prove. Do you know what I mean? I think Gorman beats Wach purely because of what I've seen of Gorman. But if you're looking at pure heavyweight pedigree, Wach's above Gorman, in my opinion. Okay, but I know you're pulling some faces now, James. Just let me backpedal a little bit. Gorman, I feel like I say, he's just got that. He's got to prove himself at the minute, and Wach's got those names on his CV that he's only been beaten by the very best, and Gorman hasn't been beaten by the very best. He's been beaten by those around him. So That was the point I was trying to make. I just went the long way around.
No, no, absolutely. You mentioned David Adelaide. He's the other name in the mix for British title. He got another win as well this weekend on Friday night. I've not seen it.
Me
It
neither.
sounds pretty routine. Guy retired on his stool. Adelaide, as we know, big, powerful, can be brutal. But again, the opponents don't seem to be there. They're just not. And it could be a case of because we've never heard of them, we've never seen them before, that we
Yeah.
just write them off,
Mm.
granted, but at the same time, when is he going to, what has he done to warrant a British title shot, really? He's saying he should be there. I mean, has he done more than Fraser Clark? Can we really say Fraser Clark deserves a British title shot because he was an Olympian? Because that match is completely different.
Mm.
But if Fraser beats Marius Weck, he's got to be ahead of David Adelaide in the pecking order. He's already then
100%.
done more than David Adelaide has, in my opinion. We've seen Adelaide struggle with Solovsky. So I think for me, it's one of those ones where he doesn't really, or he hasn't done anything so far to throw his name in the mix. But at the same time, is there anybody else at the British heavyweight domestics level who has done that to throw the name in the mix? Dave Allen's out in the wilderness at the minute. He's not done enough for a long time. A few wins under his belt potentially because he's been in there with the big names. He's experienced some of the big nights. Sol Dakers, he's on the come up. Obviously, English title holder, I believe.
Mm.
He's potentially well on track for that British title shot. And I would say probably more so than Adelaide because he has gone out and won that English title. Yes, Adelaide's got his WBA European International trinkets, but they're not really worth the leather they're made on, really.
No.
It gives you rankings. That's about it, but all you're doing essentially is you're paying for your rankings because you're giving a WBA sanctioning fee. Put me in the top 20, 15, whatever it may be, and I'll take home your belt that looks like it's been in the washing machine for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's a routine win for him. I'd like to see him stepped up. I like Adelaide. I've met him before. He's a nice guy.
Mm.
I think he could be a good fighter. But we've not seen that yet.
No.
We've not seen him have a chance to prove that yet either.
And that's sort of the point I was going to make, thinking of a response to your question. It's the people he has fought, their records look okay. 10-1, 12-2, 14-3, like things like that. And they look okay, but then the guy gets in there and it's fight weekend. You're like, actually, who the fuck is this guy? Like, it's just some random guy that's never fought outside of his town. And, oh shit, he lost to Molina in 2018. Like, that's the people he's in there with. And yeah, they do roll over for him. But I feel like you can say what you want about Marius Wack, James, but I feel like if I'm Adelaide, I'll be like, hang on, get on the phone to Frank Warren. It's just fucking find some of these old guys like Marius Wack, like Molina, Takam. I know Takam's a bit better than that level, but just for me to fucking breeze out the way, and then everything that I say about myself is more believable because I've technically been in there with the higher pedigree of opposition.
No, absolutely agree. And you talk of opponents rolling over, especially at heavyweight. I just want to just touch on Johnny Fisher's opponent this weekend. I'm not even sure if he really connected with that shot properly. He sort of seemed to graze the back of his head and he was down for 10.
I'll say one thing. I was watching the Champions League final at the time, and my dad messaged me and he was like, Jesus, he was like, because it's funny to me because I could just see my old man there just sat in the living room just watching it thinking, what is this? He said, I wonder how much that guy was paid to go down in that round. Laughing face. Was Don King involved? No, it's more of a case of Eddie Hearn knows exactly what he's got with Johnny Fisher, and I'll explain that to you right now. That is a man that sells tickets. That is a man that beefs up the card. You look at the card he was on last night, prime example. Sonny Edwards isn't the biggest ticket seller in the country, is he? Everyone knows that. He's still got that profile to build. But you whack Johnny Fisher on a card, that's 5,000 that you haven't got to worry about. You look at when he was on the Danny Jacobs, John Ryder card a couple of years back now. It was Ali Pali, and Eddie made the mistake then of, I think he put him on co-main event and he fought just before Jacobs and Ryder. And as soon as he fought and won, and it was Take Me Home Country Road, that was finished, most of the people started to disappear, and it was a bad look for Matchroom at that time. And I think that's what Johnny Fisher is at the minute. Eddie Hearn, he hasn't got to take a risk. So what if Johnny Fisher doesn't fight for a title before the end of the year? To Eddie Hearn, it doesn't mean a thing. I think he thinks of him more than that. But right now, it's comfortable. He's selling tickets. He's getting experience. He's technically got a southpaw that he's fought on his record now, even though the man fell over and around. But yeah, I think the Matchroom team are comfortable with Johnny Fisher's situation at the minute.
Absolutely. And what I like about Johnny Fisher is he's been realistic. He's not sort of overlooking what his potential is. He said he wants Spendy a Southern Area title shot. Now, that's a fantastic thing for him to say, first of all, but a really, really good career move. If he can pick up a title that's got a bit of worth to its name, it's a real traditional route. He's not turned around and said, "Oh yeah, chuck me in the British title with the Wardleys, your Fraser Clarks, your Adelaides." He's saying, "No, give me the British, give me the Southern Area title," and I think that's fantastic. He knows his level, but if he goes that traditional route, he's then also got that little bit of extra time to take his time to get better, and also then move up when he's then going to be the experienced guy at the time he gets to British level. Yeah. He's going to be the older man in a fight. He's going to have that experience, that old man head. He's going to have that know-how of how to navigate a fight. If it's somebody who's got a good chin, for example, or he's just going to continue building on what he's doing, continue blowing people out of the water, and keep knocking people out. But I think he's been very, very clever there, and as I mentioned, very realistic in what he wants to do and achieve. I think that's fantastic. And like you say with Eddie Hearn, as long as he keeps selling tickets, eating chicken balls and saying bosh, he's going to be all right.
Just a quick last point on that. One of the last points, I think I'd never thought about it, but I think Sol Dacres now looks like a great fight to aim for the end of the year for Johnny Fisher. If maybe, say he gets the Southern Area within his next two, that he's definitely going to have 2 fights by the end of the summer, I think, after doing them in a round or so. I think at Christmas, I feel like that's a good next-gen show for Matchroom. Sol Dacres fighting Johnny Fisher. They'll both sell tickets there. If they pick a small arena, that'll sell out. And that's a great fight to look forward to. But my point I was trying to make is, when do you think Johnny Fisher will be out next? If you were Eddie Hearn, what would you do?
I would probably look at, what we're in now, start of June. There's talk of a show in August, first couple of weeks of August. I'll probably stick him out there, give him a week or two's rest, back into camp for, say, 6 to 8 weeks. And, he's going to be ready then. He's going to go straight back out again August. And if he's back out again in August time, like you say, he set himself up for that October-December fight. And, to be honest with you, Dacres, I think that's a very risky fight for both fighters.
It is.
I can't see it happening, but if it does happen on a next gen show, that headlines it easily. And normally the next gen shows are put on in York Hall if it's down in London.
Yeah.
Now Johnny Fisher sells it out himself. That would sell out of just the Romford Bull Army.
Imagine that noise.
No tickets left for anybody else. So it probably would have to be a bigger venue than York Hall, if we're being honest. Yeah. Because, like I say, if Johnny's going to do 5,000 on his own, let's say he sells more because it's a title fight, potentially an English title, British title eliminator. You could be looking at 7,500 tickets he can do there, potentially, just on his own. Never mind how many people Sol will bring down himself to London. You're talking there, another, say, I don't know, underestimate it at 500 people. That's 8,000 potential people there just for the main event. So it's a good fight. I don't see it happening, but it would be a great, great fight. Final point now, Lynden. We'll move on to the last piece of action coming up this weekend. The return of Regis Prograis. I won't go too much into his opponent because I don't know who he is. I'll be real. It was a bit underwhelming to see the announcement of Zorilla, is it?
Yeah.
God knows who he is, where they plucked him from. But I think it's more a case of it's Prograis' homecoming. He's fighting his hometown. It's to get him back in the ring.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned earlier with Josh Taylor jumping straight back in against Teo, who's a high level opponent and caliber of opponent to
Mm.
take on. It's probably the right move for Prograis to come back in, shake off that ring rust, get his homecoming, get his confidence right up sky high. And it sounds like it could well be a Jack Catterall fight next, should
Mm.
Prograis win. Um, yeah, I just think it's probably a good mirror image of the Teo Taylor fight, but what should have
Yeah.
happened with Josh Taylor for his fight next after being out for so long.
100%, you hit the nail on the head. I feel like Matchroom have handled Prograis' situation perfect. He's been without a promoter for a little while, and he's been sort of fishing and sort of putting himself for sale for a little while, seeing the best deal he could get, and he's chose Matchroom. And I feel like that's what this fight is. It's not of there's zero risk. Well, there's always some risk in the ring, but technically zero risk. It's the homecoming, so they'll see the popularity that he generates, see what it's like in his hometown, who shows up, how many tickets they sell, and then I think that'll impact the next step they make. Because, like, I think Catterall Prograis is a great fight, whoever's name's first, but I think that's what it'll be about. This weekend will sort of decide whether Catterall comes over to America or Prograis comes over here. I think it'll definitely be in England, but you never know. There might be a miracle. He might sell out his hometown. But yeah, Prograis is an interesting fight for me because he's been on the perimeter of things for a little while, just waiting for that promotional deal, and that lack of a promoter has kept him out of fights and kept him out of people's mouths. But I feel like now he's with Eddie. Anyone in boxing knows Eddie. He's the best man at shopping his people around, and I feel like next year he's going to have a really exciting year. I feel like we'll be saying Regis Prograis' name a lot.
I mentioned Jack Catterall there. That's obviously the name that's heavily mooted
Mm.
for Prograis, over here in Britain at least anyway. There are other options on the table. There's little talks about Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, but also let's throw Teofimo Lopez in the mix now as well.
Exactly.
After this win at the weekend, if he's not retired, let's chuck his name in. Let's try and lure him out of retirement.
Mhm.
Prograis obviously got a title. Prograis got a name. He's got a profile. Like I mentioned, we'll see if he sells out his hometown, which I would expect he should do. I can't imagine it being a big venue over there.
No.
So he should sell out. But yeah, there's a lot of options for out there. And like you say, we could be hearing his name a lot next year. And let's say he gets these big fights and let's say he keeps winning. Let's say he beats Jack Catterall, then moves on to, let's say, Ryan Garcia and beats Ryan Garcia. That's potentially a fighter of the year contender right there.
Mm. But I feel like Prograis is in such a it's a different use of the word comfortable now, but such a comfortable position in his own career. Like the choices he can make, because you've got a few ways you can go. You can take Catterall next, who is like on paper he's a little bit of a level below that world scene, or massive money fight Devin Haney, or does he look at Lomachenko, a man that's over the hill, but is a great name to fucking have on that record, and say, look, I beat him. Now I want you. Or does he just wait? Does he just wait to see what happens? Does Taylor call him out next week and go, "This is the fight I want. I want to beat you again." And or Prograis calls him out and says, "Yep, you got beat. I want to finish your career. Let's get that revenge." Um, like I say, he's in a real comfy position in terms of the decisions he can make for his own career.
Definitely. And you've sort of mentioned already my last point on this topic, and that is Josh Taylor.
Mm.
What a brilliant fight for him to bounce back to. Prograis is going to want revenge. He's going to want to have revenge on Taylor and get that win over him and just scrub off that loss on his
Yeah.
record, essentially. And for Josh, it's a win-win for him. He's straight back in at the deep end. He's straight back in at the top level for a world title. And if he wins
Mm.
it, everything's all forgotten about with Teofimo and
Exactly.
Catterall. So it's a real option for Josh Taylor, I think. And that's what I think. If Josh wants to come back and go straight back in at the top end and prove himself, I think he should be dogging Prograis on social media. He wants to be calling him out. Listen,
Mm.
I beat you once. You can't touch me. I'm gonna do it again. All this lot,
Yes.
trash talk him and goad him into a fight. For Josh Taylor, go out there. If you beat him again, like I say, you've got a world title. You're then back in business,
Mm.
at top level and making more money.
And it's quite an interesting fight. Like I've never really thought about it, but just thinking now where they both are in their careers now compared to when the aftermath after they fought is unbelievable because Taylor sort of needs the Prograis fight. He needs that.
I mean,
Who else? Who else is he going to go for?
Who's the bookmakers' favourites in that right now? After the two performances for Josh Taylor, does Prograis enter that as the bookie's favourite?
Yeah, where do they fight? For me, that is really interesting, and I feel like Eddie Hearn will definitely be on the phone to Josh Taylor in a few weeks.
I certainly hope so. But let's wrap it up there, Lyndon. That's episode 2 of the pod done. Episode 3 back again, same time next week, and more to discuss. Potentially Adam Azim, potentially not. We will see, and hopefully another fun-packed week in boxing.
Mate, fingers crossed. This one's been a good one, but like you say, tune in next Monday and all.